I hear you. A man was telling me about his latest troubles with his wife. They tend to argue a lot. He told me she said he was a terrible listener, or something like that. He wasn't really paying attention. Another fella told me about a recent conversation with his wife. She said, "You weren't even listening, were you?" He said, "That's a pretty weird way to start a conversation, don't you think?" One more. A man was complaining to his doctor that his wife's hearing is going bad. The doctor suggested that he try a little experiment to prove whether or not it is true. So, when he gets home, he does what the doctor tells him. He stands about 15 feet behind his wife in the kitchen and asks her, "What's for dinner?" No response. He moves a few feet closer and once again asks her, "What's for dinner?" Again, no response. He again moves a few feet closer and asks the same question, with the same result, no response. Finally, he stands right behind her and raises his voice and asks her, "What's for dinner?" She whirls around and says, for the fourth time, "Chicken." It may be that we all think we're good listeners, but we might be surprised to find out that we aren't. I include myself in this mix. Don't think that just because I write an article or preach a lesson about listening that I'm above the problem. Even my wife tells me I'm not a good listener, or something like that. I was trying to send a text at the time. But you get the idea. At this point, you expect to see the quote from James. So without delay, here it is. James 1:19. "Know this, my beloved brothers, let every person be quick to hear, slow to speak, and slow to anger." Or perhaps what Solomon said in Proverbs 18:13. "If one gives an answer before he hears, it is his folly and shame." But what if there is more to it than merely not talking? Admittedly, not talking is a good start, and we all would do well to talk less. However, there is much more to being a good listener. Being a good listener to others also means we are able to listen to ourselves. When you listen to others, are you eagerly waiting for the other person to take a breath so you can jump in and tell all your own story? Try the 5-second rule. Whenever someone pauses, give them 5 seconds before you say something. They may just be collecting their thoughts. Don't be in a hurry to tell your story. If this is a face-to-face conversation, make eye contact. Don't interrupt them except to get clarification on some point. Ask them something along the lines of, "So let me get this straight. You said," or "What you mean is." Show an interest in the other person's life. Ask them to tell you more about the subject. Don't be judgmental. Engage your whole body in the conversation, so to speak. Lean in, nod your head, use facial expressions, etc. Do you know someone who is a good listener? Watch them and pick up on their verbal and nonverbal cues. There is a reason for this article. Psychologists will tell us that this time of year is perhaps one of the most difficult for many people. It may be their first holiday season without a loved one. It may be they don't have family visiting or to visit. It may be emotionally charged with painful memories of past experiences. A good listener may be just the medicine they need to help them through this time. I think of a passage from 1 Chronicles. In the verses leading up to chapter 12 and verse 32, we find a list of people who came to King David when the kingdom was being given to him. This list includes of Issachar, men who had understanding of the times, to know what Israel ought to do, 200 chiefs and all their kinsmen under command. At one point in Jesus' ministry, he confronts the Sadducees and Pharisees about their inability to perceive in Matthew 16, verses 2 and 3. He answered them, "When it is evening, you say it will be fair weather, for the sky is red. And in the morning, it will be stormy today, for the sky is red and threatening. You know how to interpret the appearance of the sky, but you cannot interpret the signs of the times." Are we perceptive enough to see the signs and be a good listener to those who need to be heard? Well, let's hope so. Those are our thoughts for today.